Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome my friends. My name is Vincenzo and welcome to my channel, and the channel is Fountain Pen Therapy, and lots of therapy, folks. Lots of therapy. All kinds of things have come in. And you know, we've got all my regular segments ready to go. I've got some special news on OMAS and that I'd like to share with you as well. So, you know what, folks, without any further ado, here is Fountain Pen Therapy's weekly recap for July the 20th. Yeah, the 20th. 2 more days and I'm 68 years old. 2025. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back with the first segment of this recap, which is what's new in the market. Well, I'm not going to go through the regular scheme of things that I present to you almost on a weekly basis, where I review some of the Chinese pens and then we go through the other markets, other sites, etc., just to see what's new in terms of inks, paper, and writing instruments. I have one major news item that I'd like to deal with in this segment, and it's going to probably take up the whole time slot. So that's all I'll do for this week, and you'll forgive me for that. But what's in the news is OMAS. I don't know if you guys have heard, but here's where it all started. I was just surfing on one of the social media sites, and I forget if it was Facebook or Instagram or maybe even a video on YouTube. I forget. But I saw this ad, if you will, or announcement that OMAS was having some kind of a video conference, relaunching of OMAS, and I was curious. So I ended up, I clicked and I went onto this site, identified as OMAS Bologna, and inviting people to register for a special, I guess it's like a press conference, but done through video conference and through invitations. It was a Teams video conference. And I registered, and Teams conference was given on July the 16th, this week, in Italian at 9 o'clock Montreal time and at noon in English, noon Montreal time. I managed to plug in at 12:30. I missed the first half hour, but and I wasn't able to plug myself in at 9 o'clock in Italian. But the gist of what's happening is that you had, as you know, or as you may know, OMAS, it was an Italian pen maker that was founded in 1925 by Armando Simoni, and the company went through a whole history, and you got some beautiful pens. It was known for its innovative designs, use of materials like cotton resin and ebonite, and some beautiful celluloids. And of course, that gorgeous and beautiful in-house nib that they're so famous for, some which are regular stiff nibs, and other that are very flex nib, all made of gold, 14 karat, and maybe even 18 karat. I don't believe they made any steel nibs at the time, at least not in the 30s and the 40s. I mean, the company went through some ups and downs, and some of that cotton resin raised some problems in terms of shrinkage of the pen barrels, etc. But I read all kinds of things. And eventually it kind of stopped operations, and in the year 2000, it started to be reacquired. Originally, I think The companies were involved. Louis Vuitton was involved. Asian companies were involved. Finally, I hear that Mr. Zhang, Frank Zhang of Navlar, is managing partner of an OMAS that's producing OMAS branded pens. And I'll show you the site. OMAS Official, I think, is the way they... And I, in fact, already purchased 2 pens from them. And we'll take a look at these in a second. But now, all of a sudden, I get this invitation, and I'm listening to the daughter of Mr. Simoni, and I want to get her name right, by the name of Raffaele Simoni Malagudi, and the grandson, Gianluca Malagudi Simoni. And they've kind of revived OMAS Bologna, or from what I understand, and here's where I'm not certain, but my understanding, I think, is that they've acquired the rights for Europe, and they are relaunching OMAS Bologna in Europe. And that was the theme of that video conference. At that video conference, we learned that they're back in business, that they're going to be operating in Bologna, in the old building where it all started, from what I understand. The pens that will be produced will be fully and completely produced from A to Z in Bologna, in Italy. They're going to go back and revisit some of the old materials like resin and celluloids, perhaps, but most importantly, they're going to be redoing in-house their own nibs, which is music to my ears. And, there was a lot of excitement, and I listened to all of this, and the grandson was very much inspired. He's talking about materials that he has in archives. He's talking about pulling out of, the great-grandfather's, the grandfather's safe, some of the old nibs, and they're going to be doing this special anniversary pen called and it's going to be the 1906-25, 1906 being June and 25 being 1925, because it's an anniversary, if you will. And that pen is going to be made out of titanium. I'm showing you some pictures that I took while the video conference was taking place. And it's going to have that original 18-karat OMAS nib that will flex in like the old style, flexi nibs, go from anywhere from fine all the way to broad. And I was really excited. So all of that is the good news, and I'm glad they're back in the game. The bad news, at least for me, is that they're going to be exclusively selling in Europe. So I've got to be in Italy to buy that pen, I guess, or any pen, because there's not, at least not for the time being, there's not going to be any distribution in the United States. Now, are any other deals coming? I don't know. Keep in mind that you have Frank Zhang and Navlar in the picture. You have that OMAS official site. You have ASC, which is Armando Simoni Club, which is, my opinion, falls very short of the real thing. But, they're using their name and they have some rights to something. You have our friends, Bologna friends in Scribo, who are ex-employees of OMAS, who have started their own and are using some of the not the secrets, but some of the traditions of the old, and they, of course, are artisans, so they have that experience behind them, and all of that raises many questions, but at least we know that OMAS, and they're going to call themselves, I guess, OMAS Bologna, is back in business. Now, as I said, the bad news is that it's only going to be in Europe, so I don't know how I'm going to get my hands on any pen, including that 100th anniversary pen. But I guess one of them is settled already, which is the acquiring of that OMAS anniversary pen, or, that's going to start them off. Because if you go on the site, and let me switch, and I'll switch to the site right away. That's their site, and they have, I think, 100 years. I think it's here. Just bear with me. No, it's not here. Is it 2025, maybe? Passion and loyalty, no. Is it here? This is actually, you gotta kind of not register, but send your name, because there's only 125 of those pens. But I'm trying to find the pen, and I can't find it for the life of me. But it's going to go for $3,500 from what I understand, or 3,500 euros. So I mean, right away I'm out of the picture. And I can't find it right now, but it's somewhere on the site, believe me. So, at 3,500 euros, that's roughly, $5,000 Canadian. I mean, I'm a fan, but I'm not that much of a fan. And the other bad news, of course, is that I had some inkling through the video conference that they may actually concentrate on, very luxurious pens. In other words, they're not going to be producing thousands and thousands and thousands of 300 and 400 and, Leonardo Officina type of operation, or a Delta operation, or even a Aurora that has, $500, $600 pens, scribble, 500, 600, not dollar, but euro pens. I think they're going to go a high end. If they're going to be reproducing those original nibs, from what I understand, it's a very expensive venture. They're going to be using some of the old techniques, the old machinery, the old secrets, but it's not cheap. My understanding, if there's one thing I understood when I spoke to Nino Marino and we spoke about in-house nibs, is that he told me very clearly, Vincent, it's not a cheap venture. If you venture out into making your own nibs, very expensive. And that's one of the reasons I think that Leonardo is getting there eventually, because I think that's what they want to do, but they're not there. They're not quite there yet, but they're working on it. At least that's my understanding. So it's not going to be, a cheap affair. And just from this 100th anniversary pen going for, $5,000 Canadian, I suspect that even what's coming is not going to be much, much cheaper, which is bad news for me and bad news for all of us. But having said that, I'd like to show you, the few pens that I do have from OMAS while I'm at it. Why not, right? So camera one, here we go. Of course, I have a vintage OMAS. This is an OMAS Extra, and that's what he talked about. I think this is what that cotton resin that he was talking about. I don't believe that this is celluloid. I believe this is their resin. Talk about that new it's going to be a titanium pen, 12 faceted, if I'm not mistaken. This one's a 12 faceted affair. Let me just take that out. And this is the OMAS Extra, and it's kind of a smaller size pen, in line with the times, but that nib is just absolutely exquisite. I've got to tell you. Now, is this the 14 or 18 karat? Oh my God, I can't read it. It's too small. I forget, but it's a gold nib, that's for sure. Very, 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 very smooth. It doesn't have that flex. It's pretty. This is one of the stiff nibs, unfortunately. When I acquired it, I thought maybe I was going to get one with a little more flex, and they do exist. They're very expensive. That's one of the vintage OMAS that I have. I have this they call it the D-Day pen, in commemoration for the war. So this is OMAS commemoration of D-Day, and it's 1944 to 1994 when I guess the pen came out. This is kind of a bold nib. The other one was fine. Very, very smooth, I got to tell you. Very consistent. So, two beautiful nibs, and if they're going to reproduce those nibs, it's going to cost a fortune. These are the modern ones that I have, that I bought from, I guess, the company that's being run by Frank Sang in Navlar. This one is referred to as the OMAS Bologna calligraphy. The reason why I think they mention calligraphy is that it doesn't have an OMAS nib, but it has a regalia cross-flex nib. A lot of fun. Yeah, and we're dealing with a flex nib here. And then I've got the modern version of the OMAS Ogiva. With what looks like the traditional nibs that we're used to seeing on some. In fact, if I compare it to my OMAS Extra, you can see now the Ogiva is much bigger, but it's got the same kind of styling and the same kind of branding. Now, is it the same materials, etc., etc., etc.? I'm not sure. This is the demonstrator, and this I know is the 14 karat gold nib, but this in Italy. And beautiful nibs, got a little bit of bounce, but still fairly stiff. But as you can see, it gives me a wider line when I can push it, okay, quite a bit. So it does resemble, those original nibs. So what's going to happen? Is it that OMAS Bologna, Italy, is going to, have the rights for Europe, and the Navlar-related OMAS official is going to have the rights for elsewhere? I'm not sure how they're all going to work out. How is Scribo going to react to all of this? That now all of a sudden you have two competitors in manufacturing pens in Bologna and in that community. On the other hand, they may be in different markets. The new OMAS Bologna will be in a very, very luxurious market, whereas Scribo is going to be a little more reasonable. It's already very expensive to buy a Scribo pen at $600, $700, €100. It's not a cheap pen, but this OMAS Ogiva was more than reasonable. I think I paid it €400 or €500. This one I think was around $600, $700. So, affordable, but $3,500 for a pen is out of the question. It's just out of the question. So I wish them good luck. I'll keep you informed of all the news, and the more we discuss this, the more I see on what's out there on the net. Be able to tell you whether or not we can acquire that pen or subsequent pens, or how it's going to work, or even if it's going to be available in any retail outlets in Europe, because I'm there often, so I don't mind. And in fact, if they come up with any pens, I may just have everything, sold and sent to my son who lives in Portugal, and then get the pen that way. So, stay tuned in any event. So that's my, segment for what's new in the market. OMAS Bologna. Congratulations. Tanta fortuna. Good luck. Stay tuned. We'll be back with my next segment. Okay, so what's new in the Fountain Pen Therapy studios in terms of paper, ink, and writing instruments? Well, as usual, it starts with some paper. I'm going to shift to my computer and show you the product that I discovered. I was, perusing, and one of the shops that that I'm subscribed to and that I get news from is the Gentleman Stationer, which is an excellent site, by the way. And they had for sale this laconic field pad refills. I think it comes, the main selling point is the actual system, the whole pad that I was originally interested in. But then I took a look at these paper. I said, well, let me take a look at the paper first. So I ordered basically a refill, A5, size A5, and decided to see whether or not it's Japanese paper and whether or not this laconic field pad is worthy of mention. So that's the site, and here's the product. So first of all, it's a very thin notebook, and it was going for, does it say the price? If I add it to the cart, unable to add item. So the grid, and by the way, it comes in 3mm grid and 5mm grid. Add to the cart, and I guess if I go to the cart, it's $8. So this was $8. Let's open it up. What attracted me to it is the fact that it is Japanese. So I expect it to be of, quite a bit good material, or it's a good and fountain pen friendly notebook. I can tell you it's extremely smooth. It is fairly thick. The grid is only on one side, and it may even be coated. So that is it's a simple notepad. I want to see what it's all about. And it's just part of my collection. And we'll see. We're going to do some swatching on it. We'll compare it to my Tomoe River paper that I usually use as a base, and then do some writing on this notepad, and we'll see what gives. So that's the paper for this week. Let me set up, and I'll show you the inks. Okay, so we're back with the inks, and I wanted to show you my Rohr Klinger collection of inks. I believe I have almost all of them. If not, I'm missing very few. We've got here a series on top here from dark kind of brownish green, almost black, to a green gray. And then we got some green there. We got some red colors there. We've got a series of various blue inks. And then I have my kind of purple, magenta, violet, along with a special edition aubergine. And these are more kind of Bordeauxish reds. Surprised I don't have a brown, but maybe one of these reflect brown. And maybe I'm missing that. I'm going to have to check that out. But here's my collection. Now, I don't propose to swatch them all for you in one swoosh. What we're going to do is we're going to take... I'm going to start off with these blue. So we're going to do all the blues today. We will do the greens next time, and then we'll do a mixture of the reds and the Bordeauxs, and then the purples. There are 16 inks, so we'll divide them into four sessions, and that will serve for the ink swatching for the future. We'll start with the blue. Maybe we'll mix it up and come back to them to give you some variety. But these are the four that are up for grabs today. Prepare my swatching materials, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm all set. I got my water, I got my inks, I have my cappuccino, I have my, what are they referred to it as, field or laconic, sorry about that. Yeah, laconic field pad. I have my Tomoe River original pad there. I have this is a Jinao, what is it? Are these the 80s or the 82? The ones that look like Pro Gear Slims, okay? But it has I'm not sure that this is glass. I believe it's plastic, but I may be wrong. But that's going to do the trick. And that's just another one that I have in my collection. My drawing pad is here, so we're all set. Let's start with the first one here is Blue Mare. So sea blue. Okay, here we go. We have started. We're off to the races. So let me just dip in there. This is the, and I can never spell their inks. So this is Roher. I think it's H-R-E-R. Oh, I missed an R here. And Klingner. And it's the Blue Mare, or sea. Very nice. Now, right away I could tell that this is probably plastic because it doesn't retain a lot of ink. Mind you, I'm not dipping it as deep as I should, perhaps. That's the... But it's very smooth, though. That's the upside. So let me do that here as well. So this is Ro. There's an R here. Klingner. Ah. Okay, we'll stop right there. So that's Blue Mare. Next one up, what are we going to do? We're going to take this one. This one is the Permanent Blue. Wash that out. Okay, do some dipping here. Okay, that should be... So that's Roar. Very smooth, this nib. When I put ink on it. And this is Permanent. Nant Blue. Now I'm asking too much. Permanent. Do I have enough? Blue. Yes, I do. Wash that out. But my fingers are a mess. Okay, that's Permanent Blue. Next on the list is an ink by the name of... Oh, okay, so this must be... Yeah, a Gaelic ink. Iron Gull Salix. we go. Wash that out. I can almost smell that iron gall. I don't believe that any of these inks are shimmering inks. If I'm not mistaken, there's not one of them that's shimmering in my collection anyway. I'm not sure they make shimmering inks. Wow, this is a nice royal blue. Very nice. So, and it is, oh, it's royal blue. There we go. Okay, so those are the 4 inks. And by the way, this is a leather pad that I bought from AliExpress. If I remember, I'll remember to put a link. Very nice, reasonably priced, and you can either use it for a notepad, or a notebook on both sides. It's got, sleeve, and it's got an elastic to close it up, and accommodate quite a lot of thickness as well. In any event, we'll let all this dry up, and we'll come back and see how this paper performs as compared to the Tomoe River. Be right back. Okay, so let's look at that paper to see how the inks performed. Here's the overhead of, this is the laconic. I would say to you, when you compare it to Tomoe River, it's pretty flat. I mean, these inks are not the most expressive inks. They're pretty standard inks to begin with. But on the other hand, I do see some red sheening on both the permanent blue, even on the blue mare. I see some shading and sheening on the Salix, and I definitely see some rich sheen on the royal blue. But on this laconic field notebook, it's pretty flat, pretty one-dimensional. And I even see a little bit of feathering here, where I may have overdone it a bit with the nib. On the other side, yeah, as expected. I can understand the swatching going through, but even some of the writing has gone through. So, not the best paper. Not the best paper. So if you see it, well, here's the success or lack thereof that I've had with this paper. So there you have it. Those are the inks for this week. Stay tuned for my next segment. Next, what's new in the fountain pen therapy studios in terms of writing instruments? Well, over at Camera, got a couple of pens I want to follow up on, a few pens that I've received, and I'll take a look at them, do some writing, and share the experience with you. So, over at Camera, here they are. These two you've seen already. I just want to follow up on something. And I didn't realize it. One of the criticisms that was being levied by several viewers when I reviewed this Delta ink reservoir or ink tank is that that's nice to have that has this ink tank, which is essentially a huge converter. Put, up to 4 milliliters of ink in there. But, it has no ink window. Well, I said, you're right, no ink window. That could be something that could be explored by Delta. And then one viewer told me it does have an ink window. And I was surprised because I didn't see one. But here it is. I don't know if you can tell, but this Delta is different from this Delta. This is just, I guess, laser, or I don't know how it is, but it's applied and it's just white delta. This is transparent. This is actually carved into the steel, so it gives you a level of ink. Isn't that ingenious? So it does have an ink window. There you have it. The only thing he's got to figure out is how can he get this to be a regular thing on all his pens. And maybe he doesn't want it to be on all his pens, because it makes the pen much more expensive. Another question I was asked was whether or not he sells these separately. I don't think he does. I just omitted, I forgot, I promised the viewer that I would check in with him. I'm going to try to remember to write to him, Nino Marino, and find out whether or not these are sold separately, because they could be, a nice little reservoir that you can throw in your bag when you travel. But I guess he wants you to buy it with the pen, and doesn't want to sell it separately. So that could also be, the strategy there. So there you have it, and we'll do some writing with that in a second. Second thing is this Jane Austen Mont Blanc fake that I showed you last week. One of the viewers mentioned to me, I did not realize that some retailers are selling this pen with this kind of a nib that just says 1810 on it. It's supposed to be kind of a Mont Blanc standard, nib, number 6 nib. And others are actually selling it with the nib that has the Jane Austen logo on it. Now, are they the same nib? I don't know. I know that this one is really nice writer, and we'll see that in a minute. Whether or not the other one is, I'm not sure. But I just thought I'd mention that. So you got to look at different vendors that are selling these pens, and some of them may actually have the nib that's supposed to go with this, but again, it's an imitation or a fake. So there you have it. Third pen that I want to mention is that I like yellow. It's one of my favorite colors. So I bought this Wing Sung 630. It's got a fine nib, or is it an extra fine? No, it's a fine nib. Again, very nice, typical. We've seen it before. The only drawback is I got a sense that this is less precious than the black version, or maybe it's the same, but it just feels more plasticky. And this section, when you ink the pen, you gotta make sure you wipe it out really quickly. Otherwise, I got a feeling it might get stained. I noticed that the threads there are a little bit stained just because I didn't clean it properly to begin with. So be careful if you do get this pen to ink it properly, yes, but to wash it out. Usually it works better with a damp cloth, I think, to really make sure you get it all out. Otherwise, the same thing like my other versions that I have. It does have that modified twist there so that it really nice and tight, and it keeps the pen from drying out. So those are the 3 pens, and we'll do some writing in a minute. And this is a prize I got for you. Now, what is this? First thing, it's a company by the name of, is it here? Hulil, I think it is. Yeah. Got some cartridges. Are they all blue or different colors? Not sure. I guess I have to open it, figure it out. They're empty cartridges. Ha! That's a laugh. They forgot to fill the cartridges. Or are they? Yeah, they're all empty. Come on, you got to be kidding me. They sent me 6 empty cartridges, no ink on them. Well, I don't know what purpose that serves. I think that's a mistake. I'm hoping it's a mistake. Otherwise, that's a ripoff. But, the price I paid the pen, I guess I shouldn't complain. There's a little casing or a little sleeve, kind of faux leather, and some writing instructions, and here's the pen. First thing I get is a Or maybe not. Oh, I see. Okay, well, wait a second now. I think I understand. So this is a mechanism to fill the pen, because it might be filled up with that cartridge or those empty cartridges. Now that I understand it properly, there is a small converter, and then this is the Illo Pico. I think it should remind you of something, and I'll put up on the screen. So if I go on AliExpress, it's the novel Who Hill Pico. And I think they're out of stock. At least this one is. This is where the vendor I ordered it from. I believe I got it in a medium nib, if I'm not mistaken. But I quickly realized after I ordered it that it's an imitation of this Mont Blanc. It doesn't have the peak. They give it a name, but when you put it side by side with this pen, and let me go over to my camera and I'll try to put the, by the way, that, as you can see, this Wes Anderson limited edition Pico, or, I guess it's a pocket pen, goes for $3,500 Canadians. Wow, what a ripoff. Let me tell you, I don't think this pen is worth $3,500. Not in a million years. I don't care what the material is. But in any event, let's go back to the overhead camera. Yeah, and I'll put it side by side. I'll see if I could put the picture here, and you could see what's fun about the pen is that, first of all, it's not a screw in. It's just pull it out. There's the nib, and this is a smallish pen that goes with this version of it goes with the, what I would imagine would be the cartridge. So you can put this with the cartridge, and of course, does it stay? God, it doesn't even snap. I was expecting it to. Oh, it screws in. Sorry, I almost damaged that. Not bad. Can write with it. Not the biggest pen in the world, but can be written with. So that's the smaller version. But from what I understand, you can put in, and I'm not sure the Mont Blanc does this, you can put in the bigger barrel with the cartridge converter and have a almost as big a size, except you can probably cap it and screw it in. Doesn't have any clip. There you have it. The pen. We'll put some. We're going to do a review of this pen. We'll put some measurements and everything. But there you have it. And stay tuned for the review of this. I'm going to do a more detailed review when probably this week. Show all of this all over again. But you're the first to see it. So that's been added to my collection. So we won't do a writing sample with that pen. We'll wait for the actual review. But we will go back to my laconic notebook and just try out some of these pens that I mentioned earlier. First of all, this is the Wing Sung .630, but it's in the yellow model. Now I thought it was fine, but it's writing like a medium on this paper. But it's an actual fine. And that's what I noticed. I noticed this paper, when I compare it to Tomoe River, this is Tomoe River Original. I think you can see that on the Tomoe River, it's a lot finer. The line is much finer than it is on this paper. But very nice so far. See what gives on the other side in a minute. And by the way, I've been writing with this pen all week, and I'll have some comments later on, but it'll go back into my last week's currently inked. This I have not touched in a week. Let's see if it writes. Jane Austen. Mont Blanc fake. What a smooth nib. Although that section, the nib section, for some reason, is now a little more slipperier than originally thought. I have a tendency, I don't like it when I'm there, tendency to bring up my hands to that step down or to that thread so that I have better control of the pen. That's at least a tendency that I noticed. Yeah, a lot more comfortable than writing further down, although there is a little bit of a flare, but not much. So that pen just writes beautifully, and I haven't written with this. A lot of people have asked me, does it dry? Let's find out. This is the, forget it. I mean, this thing is an absolute joy. Delta Reservoir ink tank. Yeah, beautiful pen. Beautiful nib. Beautiful nib. But I got a feeling they tuned it. So there you have it. Let's try my OMAS on this that I tried earlier on this paper. So this is the OMAS Extra Vintage. Yeah, very nice. Okay, so let's see what's on the other side of this. Well, there's still a little bit of see-through. Japanese paper. I would say to you, this paper, again, a lot of you have asked me about this one. Apparently, you can get this now for like $8. I don't know if that includes shipping, though. But somebody mentioned to me that they're on sale, 50% off. And as you can see, very little see-through on this paper. I mean, this is going for $8, and I barely get 50 sheets. It's Japanese, supposed to be heaven on earth, right? And this thing, $8, it gives me a leather cover, and just as good. I really recommend this notebook. Really recommend it. So there you have it. Not the greatest, but not the worst. The problem is that it's just not ghosting. It actually, there's some bleed through there, which is not something that, I can, my Tomo River has see-through, but very little, I should say no bleed through. Okay, so that's the difference. And this is thicker, much thicker than this thing. I mean, this is 52, and this got to be at least 80, and it's still some see-through. So, I mean, let's compare it to. No, I don't have one here readily available. A Clairefold 10 notebook. No, I don't have it. So, let me just go to my. Okay, so there you have it. You've got the paper, you've got the ink, and you got my new pens. And stay tuned for my next segment. Be right back. So we're back with the segment of Currently Inked. You'll recall that last week I decided to go to a 6-pen pen case instead of 12 because it at the end of the day, I never really ended up using the 12 pens that I inked in any event. So we're going to do 6. I'm still looking for an 8 pen case. If you have any suggestions, there have been some. Please let me know. I know there are 10. There may even be 7. But 8 would be ideal for me because it would allow me to add a pencil and a roller ball. And I feel a lot more comfortable if I have this selection of pens. And this week proves that. And I'll explain why. So that was my currently inked for this week. I had a bunch. I had 4 Leonardos. I had this Admoc M800 roller ball, or 800 roller ball, and the brand new Wing Sung 630 yellow model, my beautiful banana, that I had ordered and I received this week, and that I showed you earlier. So let's do some writing with these pens, and I'll explain what I mean. One thing that I've realized is that, early on in my pen collecting, I would consistently go for nibs such as this one. This is a Leonardo. So all of these fountain pens are Leonardo. Officina Italiana. Beautiful name, by the way. And this is a 1.5 stub that gives you great, really nice line variation. But I realized that I'm gravitating more and more towards fine and medium nibs for my daily writing. I just found that when you write with a pen or a nib like this on a A5 sized grid Obonichi agenda, it's just too thick. Now, actually, let me just close up to really so that you can really appreciate the thickness of that line. It was very difficult for me to write comfortably in that grid. It's doable, but not the greatest, okay? And it goes for my Sorrento, which has a 1.1 as well. Fairly thick line. Very nice nib, by the way, but in terms of its tuning. But again, I found myself struggling to keep my notes in that 5 millimeter grid. So the same would go for this beautiful Momento Zero Grande, and this has a really even thicker line, probably the smoothest of them all, though. But again, struggled to keep the handwriting doable, but I didn't like the feeling of me trying to keep it, and it's kind of blotchy. So, and this Magico is in fact a broad, and I had a little more success, so I wrote a lot more with this pen because it gives you the smoothness of the stubs, but the line was much thinner, and it was more enjoyable to try to keep my notes within those square grids. It was a lot more doable, put it this way. So in the end, I ended up using this thing. Those are all $200, $300 pens, as compared to this, what is it, $40, $45, if that. and much thinner line. So this was my go-to pen all week. And I sign my letters. I mean, this is, you know, and if you want to keep your handwriting within the grid, absolutely no problem there. You know, when I do take down my, you know, just take notes on my conversations or my to-do list, etc., it's not a problem. And I also used this for writing and for signing my some of my letters, because of course the line is much sharper, and it, you know, I don't have one of the reasons why I don't write with or I don't sign with my thick fountain pens is that my secretary tells me I keep forgetting to wait for it to dry, so it kind of smudges, and then she's got to reprint the letter, and I got to re-sign. So I'm more and more these days signing with a roller ball or a ballpoint. So there you have my currently inked, and it just got me to, and it's not the fault of Leonardo. These are really nice nibs. I mean, they're steel nibs and they're Yowo nibs, but they're really nice nibs. But I realized that I kind of graduated. They always say that, you know, when you get to really explore the fine nib, that is the epitome of fountain pen writing, is when you can appreciate a nice fine line. I'm not quite there yet. I mean, it's only in certain pens that I enjoy that fine line. I still think that I'm probably a medium, fine medium, unless you have a sailor or a pilot or a Visconti or an Aurora. There you have it. So I'm gravitating towards the finer nibs now, and it's quite an evolution, because until maybe three years ago, I mean, I bought nothing but stubs. It was just one of the reasons why I stayed away from some of the more expensive pens, it was because they didn't sell stubs, which was crazy, I think, in my mind. So there you have it. That's currently inked for this week. Stay tuned. I'm going to give it some thought, and I'll show you what we're going to put in our case for next week. Be right back. Okay, so it's this Esterbrook that we're going to use this week. And here are the pens that are going to be used this week. We've seen some of them already, but I'm going to, you know, it's going to be kind of the OMAS theme, and that Pico that I will review will find its way, I'm sure. And then we've got a roller ball here. So we've got the Scribble La Dotta, we've got the OMAS Ogaiva, the OMAS Extra, the OMAS Bologna Calligraphy, the Hohel Pico, and the Andean rollerball. So let's, and by the way, I'm trying some new camera angles just so that we could appreciate a little more the writing sample. We'll see how all this unfolds. Okay, so let's get a little closer. So first of all, this is the Scribble La Dotta. I must say I'm growing fonder and fonder of this paper. And it's feel the nib. Flex. Fine. Beautiful pen. Really get into it when you write with that pen. So here we go. Okay. This is the OMAS Ogaiva. I gotta work on my O's. I'm not happy with my O's. And this is a 14 karat fine nib. There we go. Then we have the OMAS Vintage Extra. Some hard start there. Oh, I wonder if there's any ink. There may not be any ink left. Let's just prime it a bit. See what happens. Start over again. Gaiva Extra. And it's a 14 karat fine nib. Okay, let's move that up. Then we have the OMAS Bologna calligraphy. Let's try post-it. Yeah, posts. Okay, so this is the OMAS Bologna. It's got the regalia cross flex. This ink, I see some feathering. There we go. Very nice. The pico's not inked, so... But this is the rollerball. Never remember light of hope. And it's the rollerball. Voila. So, those are the pens. That's the new camera that you see there. But there it is. Those are it for the week. So, folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. The next segment will be questions and answers and comments from my viewers based on whatever we published last week. So I've got a couple of tidbits for you, and I wanted to review each of them. All very interesting. So let me just go to my overhead camera. Here we are. Okay. We've still got that laconic notebooks. Might as well use it. First thing, I want to report to you on, you'll remember that last week, I was playing around with this Bach nib that I purchased in one of the advertisements for the Mahjong. Where is my Mahjong P139? I just had it here a few seconds ago. Anyway, for my Mahjong P139, and you can buy that nib. So I bought the nib separately. It appears to be a Bach fine nib, number 8, for, I don't know, something like less than $20, which I thought was a big deal. But I was unable, here's the 139, I was unable to successfully remove that nib easily and then replace it with the Bach. I thought it would be just very simple. It turned out to be a complete disaster. It was stuck, and I ended up, you can see there, I ended up damaging that ebonite feed. Now, because I played around with this nib, squeezing it, trying to pull it out, it now writes even better than before. And then I saw inquiring minds who played around with this pen, and he managed to remove and dismantle, I think it was inquiring minds, or it could have been somebody else, somebody who dismantled this pen very easily, including the nib, and he just pulled it out. Here I was struggling. So I said, you know what, I'm going to put that Bach nib on the P140. It's the same section. So that's it, because I want to be able to give you some news. First of all, as you can see, the Majon nib never does this. I don't get this leaking. And I did get it from this Bach. And this Bach nib is horrible. Let's just try to write with it. Oh, there you go. It's just right up on me. I mean, I was writing with it a few seconds ago. So there's something wrong with that nib. I'm going to deal with the other stuff. I'm going to play around with it off camera, and we'll come back to it. Okay? But just to show you how that damaged, again, you saw that last week, but here's my, look at that. I mean, this is a medium that is now writing like a broad. Very nice. So there you go. Now, what else have we got? Somebody was asking me whether this Ongdian T1 seals properly. I think the problem does stem from the fact that this is so, I think it opens up in like, almost less than a turn, and it is kind of, it's so smooth that it kind of opens up on you. So it does. I can understand why somebody would ask if it seals properly, but let's see. I haven't written with this pen in a while, at least for a week. So there you have it. To me, it seals pretty nicely, to answer the question. Next question. They asked me to compare, these are two pens with cellulose acetate. One is the Cypress Ravishing that I've reviewed, and this is the Vizier Twilight that I've reviewed recently. They asked me to compare them and say which one is better and which one is, which one. I mean, this Vizier is much cheaper, okay? And it's a beautiful pen. I've written with it all week, and it's still writing. So this is the Vizier Twilight. They are completely different pens in the sense that this has a, this is a more of a Pro Gear, Sailor Pro Gear look, if you will, okay? Whereas this one is very much thinner. I like the resin on this better than I do, or the way they've worked the resin than I do on the Twilight, but that's personal. But it's an unfair comparison just because this has an 18 karat nib. So this Mr. Cypress, and by the way, I had not written with this pen months. I forget when that video went up, but Ravishing, or when 18 karat, which by the way, I prefer their 14 karat over the 18 karat. I've come to the conclusion that 18 karat is much stiffer than the 14. But still very, very These Cypress nibs have a tendency to write like sailor nibs. Okay, so they have that very, very particular feedback. Now, what else have I got for you? Oh, viewers asked me about the $6.99, and asked me if apparently you'd heard that these things kind of break on you. I'm not sure what he's referring to, because I've got to tell you, these pens are just go-to, they're workhorses for me. And I have a tendency to gravitate over this one, over my Pilot A23. So this is the Wing Sung, and take a look at that. I mean, I don't believe I've used this nib. Well, I certainly haven't used it for a week, but maybe even more. And I got to tell you, and I've taken these pens on most of my vacations since I purchased them, to the point where I actually purchased 3 of them. So I have, because of that, big ink capacity in these pens, I have a tendency to bring them with different inks and different colors, and I end up using them. And they're workhorses, and they're solid pens. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's a particular experience of one viewer, and unfortunately, sometimes it happens, even with the best and most expensive pens. But I certainly have not had an issue with the build quality of the Wing Sung 699. Now, what else have I got for you? Oh, somebody asked, I mentioned a Grail pen is coming. It hasn't come yet. It's stuck somewhere, and well, I know where it's stuck. It's stuck in Europe. I think it's coming from Spain, and I keep getting the same when I track the delivery. It's saying that it's reached its international center and is on its way. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's crossed the ocean yet or not, but it's taking a little bit longer than anticipated. So there you have it. Same with my Leonardo, the 2 Leonardo pens that I bid for on Katawiki. I'm still waiting for them. So maybe next week, folks, maybe next week. Last item is this pen. Now, you might be wondering, let me just widen out a little bit. Yeah. This pen, I refer to the big mystery titanium pen. I bought it because it was titanium. I don't know who's making it. It has a number 8 size Jinhao nib. And just to give you an idea of how big it is, it's even bigger than the P139. As a matter of fact, let me just see. I just went to get my P130. It's almost as big as my P130, but not quite. But certainly bigger than this Majon 139, or is it? Yeah, bigger. And this is a pretty, in terms of size, it very, very much like the Montblanc 149. So it's a big Montblanc 149 sort of a shape, okay? But one of the issues I had with this pen is I didn't know how to fill it. Let me explain. And a viewer kindly told me what to do, and you know what? It worked. And that makes it such that this should have been maybe included in my vacuum. What it was is that you open that up, and you have this rod. And the trick is to pull that rod up, okay? And you pull it up to suck. Actually, what you do is you first put it into the bottle. Then you pull the rod up, okay? And when you pull the rod up, and with this there, okay, and I can't do it now, okay, but you pull the rod up, the ink comes up, and I said to myself, okay, but how do I, if I push it back down, it's a piston filler, it'll all empty out again. But no, there is a ball here, a huge ball right here, making it such that what happens when I push it down, it becomes a vacuum filler in effect, and it just sucks it all up. And really, really nice. And I listened to what he or she suggested I do, and you know what? It's a fill, complete fill. So now I can use this pen because I had it and I didn't know what to do with it. And it's huge, but it's nice, very nice. So this is the giant mystery titanium pen. Now I can use it. So thank you to that viewer. We've solved. Well, it's stuck. Here we go. We've solved the mystery. We've solved the mystery, and it's a very nice pen. Very nice pen. So there you have it. Comments, questions and answered. Question and answers answered. Be right back with the next segment. Okay, I'm back just to show you what kind of progress I'm making with this Bach nib that I purchased that is supposed to accompany the P139 or this one or this P140 big number 8 sized Bach nib, unmarked. This is what it gave me before I tried to tune it. And I wasn't happy with it. This is what it's giving me now. Not much better. Look at this. It just skips. Just doesn't want to write. So I don't know what to tell you, folks. The feed. Is it a problem with the feed? Is it because the nib is not sitting properly next to that feed? Perhaps that's the problem. Let me just see if I could focus here a little bit better. I'm not sure what the problem is, be very frank with you. But, you know, it's just, then it writes. It's darker, and then it's lighter, and then now it's writing. A little bit, I mean, it's sluggish. It's, you know, compared to this one, it's not bad. Now, how long will it last? I'm not sure. But very dry. I have to kind of push it along. I'm not happy with this Bach nib. I really am not. So I don't know what to tell you guys, but certainly mine is a dud. It's not working out, despite my efforts. There you go. Okay, so for my next segment, it's a YouTube review. I've got three YouTube videos that I think are extremely interesting. The first one is from my friend Fontaine de Plume. He reviews, and he's now got this translator going. So he sometimes, most of the time, publishes in French, but now he's got the translator. So if your language is English, yes, it's not his voice. But at least you get to understand what he's saying, and he's very, very good. So Fontaine des Plumes reviews the Mahjong P137. I'm so glad he did, because it's in that cart, and price has gone down. But now I don't know if my friend Fontaine des Plumes realizes, and maybe he did the video before but the pen has two versions now. It's got a version, the clip is different. The snake coming down, forming the clip, resembles or imitates, I think, another Mont Blanc pen. And then there's another one where the snake is just circling around the cap. Put the pictures up on for you to compare. And I'm not sure which I should get. I think I'm going to go for the one with where the snake is just forms an actual clip, as opposed to a roll stopper. Okay, I think I'm going to go with that one. But again, what makes it more expensive? If you go with the Mahjong nib, I can get it as cheap as 120 Canadian, 130, 125. But if I add that very nice lemon hand-polished medium nib that's on my titanium 136, then it goes up to 140. But I think I'm not going to compromise on the nib. So maybe stay tuned. It might go from my cart to purchase. So thank you, Fontaine de Plume. Second video is Wonders Unlocked, reviews a Pen BBS 599. And I always wonder where I can get them. And so I wrote to Pen BBS, and they've answered. Very nice. Given me alternatives, and everything ranges between $350 and $450 US. So they're not cheap. With certain type of nibs that are available now, and all depending on the material that you're choosing. Okay, and after she's given me five choices there. So it is possible. Go to Pen BBS on Etsy. Go to the comment section where you can send a message, and they're very nice. They'll answer back, okay, if you're interested. But Wonders Unlocked has reviewed at least his pen, and that can give you some indication of what to expect. Then I want to shout out to Chris Rapp 52. He reviewed that black Natami pen that I saw last week and that I mentioned in my recap last week, and I wasn't sure whether or not I would go for it. In the end, I haven't yet, but if any of you are tempted by it, there's Chris Rapp 52 who's reviewed that pen. So there you have it. And maybe because he's reviewed it, I won't order it. It's not really on my priority list, let's just say. So that's it for in terms of other YouTube reviews. Of course, you have my own. You have that video on budget vac fillers. By the way, the 355 is a bulk filler. And that's maybe explains why I was having such a hard time getting ink in that pen. It's a bulk filler with that very special mechanism, and so we should remove that from the picture. It's a vacuum. It's not a vacuum filler. It's a bulk filler. So there's that video. I hope you appreciated. You have very nice comments. Different people had different favorites at the end of the day, but that's okay. That's the name of the game. Somebody suggested I should do my budget piston fillers. Maybe I will. I'll think about that one as well. And of course, you have my last week's recap. Stay tuned this week. I don't know what's going to come up. Maybe my Leonardo's. Maybe that, hopefully, beautiful Grail pen that's coming in. And if not, I've got that Hull Hill Pico Wes Anderson imitation. So one of those will get the nod, and maybe not. Maybe not. I still have others, as you can see from my putting up on the screen. I still have others that I have not published as yet. So there you have it. Thank you very much. Folks, please subscribe. If you haven't, a lot of you watch this, but don't subscribe. It costs nothing. Just click on it and you get notified if I publish anything. And if you're fed up with me, you can always, unsubscribe. So I'd appreciate it. It helps the algorithm. There you have it. Grazie molto. Thank you very, very much. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your pens. Enjoy the outdoors. It's summer. My golf game is really good. I played a golf game what is it, Friday morning with the buddies. And let me tell you, I was on fire. I was on fire, especially my putting. It's a British Open, so we're going to try to catch Penn's British Open, play golf, enjoy family, and there you have it. It's my birthday next week, so I suspect my wife's going to organize something at home this weekend, and it's Sunday morning. Not yet. I don't know anything as yet, but maybe Sunday noon. Take care, folks. All the best.